So, does swearing in films offend you? Do you worry about it with your children particularly? A new report by the people who give age ratings to films suggests many of us are swearing more in daily life, so it doesn't really matter too much. But parents are still keen to see children protected from some bad language in TV and films. David Austin is Chief Exec of the British Board of Film Classification. Hi, David.
Hello, Rachel.
Yeah, so what I think really stood out for us when we were looking at this story this morning is that the F word can be used in films that are rated 12A and 12 respectively. That's a big change, isn't it?
Not really. No, the F word has been, in certain limited cases, has been used in 12 rated films for many, many years. I joined the board 16 or 17 years ago, and it was part of 12 films back then, because that's what the public people told us they were happy with back then. I mean, I was just heard your bit at the beginning of before the travel news. We're not changing our policy on the back of this, essentially. Although people have told us that they accept that swearing is part of daily life, with 6 in 10 saying it really is part of their daily life, with a third saying that they use strong language more than they did 5 years ago. And particularly, half of 16 to 24-year-olds use strong language on a daily basis. When it comes to children and keeping children for as long as possible, parents have said that they do not want us to relax our standards at 12A and 15 and 18, because that was one of the questions we asked. With more swearing in daily life, are you happy for us to relax our standards, therefore, and allow more uses of strong language and very strong language at 12 and very strong language at 15? And the answer was no, because we want to protect our children from this kind of language for as long as we possibly can.
Yes,
and only 1 in 5 parents told us that they were comfortable swearing in front of their children under 16 at home.
Yeah.
Because they want to shield their kids for as long as possible.
Yeah, I think my children need some sort of refuge from bad language, and your films perhaps are the way that they will get it. So I'm just trying to think what 12 or 12A films would use the F word. I can't particularly think of any, but you say it all depends on context, frequency and tone.
It does. It really does. That's one of the tests that we take into account because the public have asked us to. They say the word is important, but what is most important of all is the context in which it's used. So if I was to say to myself, using the word that you've just mentioned, if I was to say to myself, I am a silly, that word, that in a sort of jokey, self-referential way, that is less problematic than if I were to stand over a vulnerable child and aggressively shout it at them. So context is, although the word important, context is really important. And when it comes to aggressive uses accompanied by violence, directed uses, particularly at someone that's vulnerable, more vulnerable than the person swearing, frequent use, then that will be put up to a higher category.
What I find interesting these days is because of the streaming services, it tells you why things are classified in a certain way. So I think people are more aware of why age ratings are giving these days. And I was listening to my daughter, who's 11, yesterday, talking about a particular comedy series on Netflix. And she was saying, oh, it's fine, it's a 15, but it's just mild drug use. And
yeah, well,
those kind of Netflix, terms that have become standard in children's language now.
Yeah, well, everything on Netflix carries a BBFC classification. We work with 100% of content on Netflix. You can trust the age ratings on there and the content advice because they have been rated by the BBFC.
I didn't know that. Right, that's useful to know.
So Netflix completely trustworthy in terms of the age ratings. I mean, the starting point for us is every 4 years we go out to 10,000 people around the UK and we ask them, what do you think is acceptable in terms of, you mentioned drug use, discrimination, violence, sexual violence, language, all of these things at the different ages, and they tell us, and we have focus groups with them, we show them films, and we have a really good discussion. People tell us really quite clearly what they think is okay and not okay at the different categories. So then we turn this into guidelines, and when we're sitting in our cinema or watching films on DVD or on a streaming platform, this is our Bible in a sense. Kermo describes it as our contract with the British people, and one of the reasons that we're really trusted by the public is because they give us our standards. We don't make these standards up. They tell us what they think is okay. So in relation to the F word at 12 or 15, we've shown them clips, we've shown them films, and they've said, yes, that's okay in that context. What's really interesting is when we actually give a list of words, which we do, people tend to be stricter over when they just see the word on its own in a list than when they see it in context. So they might say, the F word is never acceptable at 12A, and then we'll show them some clips and say, well, it's okay here because it's not aggressive, it's funny, it's self-directed. So context is key.
Absolutely.
The word is important, but context